I like to think I'm kind of a creative person. Anytime I think about something really deep, I like to try to imagine a physical representation of what, a verse is saying or a parable or something. I try to visualize it in my mind so it can maybe help me understand it more, to memorize it, or to explain it to other people. But, you know, in the government today, we have a lot of rules. We have a lot of rules for a reason. It's because of sin. We're not following God's commandments. And it might sound ridiculous, but I'm telling you, if you really think about it, look really deep into it, the reason why we have all these rules is because we're all evil people. And why do people want to come to America? Of course, it's getting worse. People don't really want to come to America now. But why did people want to come to America in the past? Because it was the promised land, the land of the free, the home of the brave. You had opportunities you didn't have in other places because the people were good people, honest, hardworking people, and now that stuff's being thrown away with. You see, the more bad that we are as people, the more rules we're going to have because, the law is not made for a just man, as the Bible says. It's made for wicked people, because there are some people that don't want to do what's right. They only want to do what they can get away with. And if wicked people can get away with murder, guess what? They're going to murder and all this stuff. So, the more bad we get as a society, the more rules we're going to have to need, because without, government, the people trying to say, let's just get rid of government and all this stuff, that's a terrible idea. We're going to have anarchy and, let's get rid of this, big government, let's self-govern. It's like, wait a minute. No, I don't believe in that, because we do not deserve that. I can go on and on about this, but, I want to get to the Bible, what it says. And in Matthew 22, it says, verses 37 through 40, it says, Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Now, whenever I think about the law, it's kind of like providing solutions for problems. Like, let's say we got a murderer, we need the right solution for that. Put him to death like the Bible says. Or we got a thief, make him repay 4 or 5-fold or whatever it says. Whatever God gives, that is the right solution. But we don't want to follow God. So when we don't follow God, things get more complicated. When we're a sinful society, we have to make up all these extra rules. See, God is saying, look, I know we got all these problems in the world. We got all these murderers, we got these thieves, we got adulterers, we have all these terrible people, we have kidnappers, or called man-stealers like the Bible says. We have all these problems, but really, the only thing we really need to follow is love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, and thy mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. If you do these two things, there's not going to be problems in society. Because think about it. If you love your neighbor, you're not going to steal from your neighbor, you're not going to kill your neighbor, you're not going to commit adultery with your neighbor's wife or whatever. You're going to do the right thing. But because we can't follow these two simple rules, we have to have a lot more of a complicated situation. And, I drew this little cup right here is pouring into this little bowl. And the blue, of course, is just water, but I want you to see this blue. I should have wrote on the side, but this blue water is supposed to symbolize the problems that we have in society. Now, with all these problems with, people breaking the law and stuff, God, because in the bottom of this bowl, sorry, I'm not very good at explaining this, but at the bottom of this bowl, if you look over here, there's a square hole in the bottom. Now, God's solution, these two commandments right here, all you have to do, love the Lord with all thy heart, thy soul, and all thy mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. You just do these two, put these two solutions right here in this bottom of this bowl, and there's not going to be a leak anymore. There's not going to be problems. There's not going to be corruption. Things are going to be right. But we want to reject that. We don't want to follow that. So the world has their own solution. We can't follow those two simple rules. So what do? We come up with this right here. Think about it. These are circles. In order for this to work, you have to have microscopic little circles in the bottom of a square hole, in a square hole to keep the water out. So what I'm trying to say we don't need all these laws and government if we were good people. But because we're not good people, we have to have all these laws because we don't deserve the freedom that people have over here on this side. We need all these extra rules. So, it's just a physical representation because think about this. If you were to just like X out, because I don't know if you can really see, but there's a circle and then there's a circle in between these two circles right here, or in between these four. And, I couldn't draw it with a marker, but in theory, it's supposed to go infinitely small where you have infinite amount of rules. Think about this. That is a lot of rules, a lot of headache, a lot like the Soviet government, which we're turning into, which is a headache. You don't have any freedoms. You got to show your papers everywhere you go. You got to stop by some checkpoints. You have to, provide your Social Security and all this stuff. You have to have all this verification because of all the corruption. Look, things are going to get bad if we are not doing the right thing. You do the right thing, you follow God, He gives us freedom. Think about it. And I think it's a beautiful thing, the fact that as human beings we can have our own family. We can have our own children. A man, he can be the head of his house and all this stuff. Because it really shows you, I think, the mind, at least the perspective, maybe. It might sound weird, but just in my own opinion, it's kind of like the perspective, in a way, of God, in a way. Because, if your kids are bad, what do? You take away their freedom. You take away their cell phone, take away their car. They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything because they abuse their freedom. You have to keep them on a short leash. They can't go anywhere. They can't have any fun. They can't do anything because the second that they get out of your sight, they're going to do something bad. But if your kid's a really good kid, he's doing good in school, he's succeeding, he's got a job, he's working hard, he doesn't go out and do anything stupid, he's well respected, he's just succeeding in life, you're going to give him more freedom. And it's the same thing with the government today. People like to criticize the government all day. All these stupid rules. We don't need all this verification for that and all this. We need to sign all these papers to get a house, sign all these papers to get a car. Hey, I'm with you. I hate all that stuff. But there's a reason why it's here. The reason why it's here is because people really messed it up for us. And the more you sin, it's going to affect, I think, some of the freedom of even the next generation. It's going to make this world like the Soviet Union, where you have no freedom whatsoever. You have to show your papers, to the Nazis at every checkpoint and all this stuff. And things are just, you're going to be kept on a short leash. You're not going to have any freedom because you don't deserve freedom for how wicked that you are. And it might not be you, but hey, somebody else messed it up for you. That's all I'm trying to say. But thank you for watching. God bless.